If I asked you where Sheffield's first railway station was, would you know? You might think it's the station we still use today, Sheffield Midland. That looks old and historic, but it isn't Sheffield's oldest station. Maybe Sheffield Victoria? That's gone now, but even that came later. Or perhaps Bridgehouses, again old but not the first. Because Sheffield's very first railway station stood here at the end of the Wicker. So here we are walking down the Wicker, and this is the road that is giving our Sheffield Lost Station its name. So why is it called the Wicker, Calvin? Do you know?
The road, I don't think that's agreed on. I think I prefer the making wicker baskets from the reeds on the river. There's all sorts of stories about the Wicker. There's a story that it's the length of an artery chute. Historically, Wicker was called Assembly Green, and it used to be the places where they would have big events. I'm going back 300 plus years, where people would gather, and there were artery displays down here, I believe. The days when it was the link between the East End and the town, yeah.
Of course, when you think of the Wicker, you think of Sheffield Victoria, which is just above, well, just kind of here. We're just kind of stood underneath Sheffield Victoria Station here. But no, this isn't what we've done that in the previous video. That's not what this video is about. And I don't know if any of the followers can answer this. The station, as it's called now over there, it looks like it's long disused. That was the old Station Hotel. Now, I always assumed that was for Victoria, but obviously that's got the Station Hotel up at the top, hasn't it? The top of the ramp. Is that the old Station Hotel for the old Wicker Station? The building, to me, doesn't look old enough.
No.
For the length, for the duration that this was a passenger station, and why would they need a station hotel for a goods station?
Well, it had its hotel, didn't it? It had the Victoria, that's still there.
Victoria. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Is it a lower class hotel? You know,
probably, but I wonder.
Interesting. Yeah, I generally don't know. I can't say I've ever given it much thought, to be honest, but let us know in the comments. These bring back quite some memories, because I remember I must have only been 5 or 6, and I remember coming through here on a bus with my dad. So what year would that be? 1985, 1986? And I remember him pointing this out and telling me about it.
Yep.
And that sticks with me because it was so memorable, the scale of it. And can you see the bomb damage? Look, can you see the different shades of bricks? I don't know if it's coming across on camera with it being in shade. But that was when a bomb dropped through in World War II, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah.
And miraculously, the bomb didn't explode.
It's quite a hole, isn't it?
The geography of this area would have looked very different if that bomb had gone off.
This is the gate to the town, isn't it? This is telling you you're entering somewhere. I mean,
so much history. Yeah. Let's have a walk through then.
I mean, it's not what it's for. It's not what it's built for, but it makes an entrance. We could have made so much of it.
It's the station we've come to see. Is the other side here. See where the Tesco is, the Tesco Extra now. All this area in between, is it Spital Lane that, and Savile Street? That was our Wicker Station, or Wicker Goods Station, as it later became. Looking at it today, it's hard to imagine this was once Sheffield's first railway station. To understand why it was built, we need to go back to the very beginning of Sheffield's railway story. During the late 1830s, George Stephenson was constructing the North Midland Railway between Derby, Chesterfield and Rotherham. Rather than passing through Sheffield itself, the line would run via Rotherham Masborough. To connect the rapidly expanding town of Sheffield with this new main line, the Sheffield and Rotherham Railway was promoted, opening in October 1838 and linking Sheffield with Rotherham, where it would connect with the North Midland when that railway opened 2 years later. You have to remember that this was incredibly early in railway history. The Stockton and Darlington Railway had only opened 13 years previous, and passenger rail travel was still a brand new idea. The station wasn't simply another Victorian railway station. It marked the very beginning of Sheffield's railway age. We have got some old photographs just to show you here, just for some comparison shots. And this is where the entrance was, just on the corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, to the goods yard, just opposite us here. And beyond that, I remember when you could see the other end of the tunnel, of the Spital Hill tunnel. It was only when Tesco's was built that you can no longer see that. It's bricked up, but you could see the arch still, and you probably could if we were under there, under that ramp.
You just asked Calvin off camera there, why is there not a plaque to show this?
This is one of the most important sites in central Sheffield.
In terms of the railway.
And all that means, yeah. 1838, 31st October 1838. Yeah. So, and it's a bit of a curiosity because all of Sheffield's early railway history is on this side of the city, of the old town. Yeah. Wicker, Bridgehouses, Victoria. 32 years. If you got a train out of Sheffield, it was over here, not where the current station is.
Should we have a look over the wall? All right. Amazing that this little bit of land hasn't been redeveloped, has it?
Yeah. It's the entrance to the goods yard.
So you've just been mentioning about the Fiery Jack Tunnel, the Spital Tunnel, which used to be visible in very, very recent memory. I can't remember the years now that they built the Tesco or when this was all developed, but I suspect that the tunnel portal is still there. It's just covered over behind a more modern retaining wall now.
Yeah, there was a car showroom here, wasn't there? Yeah, for Tesco. So it's terrible trying to guess these things, isn't it? It's 15 odd years this Tesco's been here though.
Over the following decades, more railways began to arrive in Sheffield. In 1847, a short connecting line was built, linking the Wicker with Bridgehouses Station, allowing wagons to be transferred between the two railways. Almost the entire route climbed through a tunnel beneath Spital Hill, which locals nicknamed the Fiery Jack. And standing here today, the difference in height between the two railways gives you some idea of the engineering challenge. And what an incredible spectacle steam locomotives battling that gradient must have been. We'll be exploring the story of Fiery Jack in much more detail in our Bridgehouses video coming soon.
Wicker Station, I mean, incredible really. This was where the very first people got a train in and out of Sheffield. I mean, it's just such an important site. Wicker Station doesn't close as a passenger line until the current station is built. I mean, there's plenty of photographs of Sheffield, not least of all from the Great Flood. We have hundreds of photographs from the Great Flood in 1864. We don't have a single photograph of Wicker Station. It's one of those things where people would have been going past with their cameras to photograph somewhere.
Is that because they only really photographed events rather than existence back in those days, do you think?
Frustrating, isn't it? I mean, just because we don't have photographs doesn't mean there weren't photographs.
Yeah.
There would have been, I'm sure. There's a picture of it, there's a drawing of it, and it's quite a substantial station building in the middle of this site somewhere. And then when the goods yard had extensive buildings going down Savile Street, coming off Savile Street.
And as we walk down Savile Street here, on our left-hand side, this is where the older station building was, and we have got some nice photographs, and we can see it on Britain from above images as well. The station frontage from the Midland's Goods Station. By 1870, everything changed. The Midland Railway finally opened its direct route into Sheffield from the south, along with the new Sheffield Midland Station that still serves the city today. Passenger services were transferred from the Wicker, bringing an end to its brief life as Sheffield's first passenger station. But that wasn't the end of its story. The station found a new purpose as a busy goods depot, serving Sheffield's industries for almost another century before finally closing in 1965. You raised a really interesting question when we were walking up, Calvin. It's called... Sorry about the noise and the traffic. There's not many quiet spots here to do any filming. It's called the Wicker. It's not actually on the Wicker. Why is it called the Wicker? Is it just because that was a well-known street that led to it? Maybe.
Yeah, I think I could understand if the Wicker arches were already there, which probably sort of slightly expands the Wicker area, but the arches aren't there in 1838. So they built the station. It's not on the Wicker. There are no Wicker arches. So it is a bit curious. They call it, it's on the corner of Spital Hill. It's on Savile Street, really.
Yeah.
And it could easily be called Savile Street Station, and probably should have been. Prior to 1838, this area was called Pickle, or the Pickle.
Really?
This area of Sheffield.
I've never heard of that name.
No, so it could have been called Pickle Station, which would be fantastic.
Pickle Station.
but certainly Savile Street. We should make the point, because until Bridgehouses opened in 1845, Wicker Station was Sheffield Station. So it's only after Bridgehouses opens that it gets its name. So whether Wicker Station predates the idea of building the Wicker Archie, it's very close. It only predates it by a couple of years or so.
So what happened to the name Pickle? Because I don't hear that mentioned. There's no reference to that anywhere that I've seen in Sheffield.
I don't think it gets...
Did it just die?
I think it's probably running out. I think it's probably it's an historical reference, even in the. I've read it in about 1900 writing, and it's already an historical reference. But Pickle, or the Pickle, I don't know where it comes from even.
So this is Sutherland Street. The reason why I fetched you up here now, this is to the east. It is east, isn't it? Give me directions. Yeah, this is east. So this would be at the, I suppose at the entrance, at the throat to the station.
Because on the 1855 Autumn Survey, the line goes under here, doesn't it? But further out, it goes over a level crossing. There is a road not far further out from here where it was still crossing on the level. The original line to Rotherham. But oh yeah, you can get it was huge, the goods yard.
Yeah.
And the site of the station was pretty decent size.
I think, although we're stood on what's here now, it looks like a modern bridge top.
Well, there's that bit over there that's a weird, different, isn't it?
Yeah, like the
this has been rebuilt. Yeah.
It has, but I believe underneath there is still the bridge underneath here. It's still a bridge underneath. And interestingly, I don't think it's this one. I think there's one just further up the line there, a short distance up the line. When I was doing my work experience in, what year would this have been, 1996, I worked for Jarvis Rail for 2 weeks, and we came in, we were doing maintenance on one of these railway bridges underneath it. And I always, at the time, it kind of didn't really understand, but I couldn't get my head around why I was working for a railway maintenance firm and we was repairing a road bridge, and it's only now, all these years later, I don't think they really understood it, to be honest.
Yeah, nice.
And it was because it was obviously still maintained as a railway bridge. I wonder if it still is. I wonder if the structures on this rail corridor are still managed by Network Rail, or if they've been handed over to someone else by now.
So what's going on here?
Yeah, say what are these girders?
Yeah, it's a bit more. Has that been filled in, that one? Go on here.
This is very, very early when we talk about when this station arrived in early passenger railways. This was very early in the story of the passenger railway. But you've just said there is some debate. There's people who speculate and disagree that this was actually a passenger railway.
I think because primarily, I think more services ran for goods than for passengers.
Yeah.
And I think it was Fitzwilliam in that. It was convenient for some of the landowners and the industry being where it is as well. But it did have passenger trains. It was a passenger station, and people did get that. People could go to London on the Midland Railway. We do know that many thousands of people used it in that first couple of months. It was only open for 2 months at the end of 1838, and there are very good figures for the use. Yeah, and a good description of it. There's a contemporary book, the Sheffield and Rotherham Railway, which is really interesting. Describes the route of the line and what you can see out the window. It's a great description of this part of Sheffield.
For almost a century, the Wicker continued to serve Sheffield as a busy goods station. But after the railways were nationalised, British Rail began reorganising freight operations across the country. Sheffield had inherited a patchwork of goods yard built over decades by competing railway companies. Many were now performing the same role, while others had become cramped, congested and increasingly difficult to operate. Rather than maintaining numerous small depots across the city, freight was concentrated into larger purpose-built facilities such as the vast Tinsley Marshalling Yard. As traffic moved to these modern centres, goods stations like the Wicker became surplus to requirements, finally closing in 1965. Today, almost all traces of the station have disappeared. The platforms, warehouses and sidings have long since been swept away. In their place stands something far more familiar to modern Sheffield: Tesco Extra. Thousands of people park, shop and drive across this site every week, often with no idea they're standing where Sheffield's railway story first began. This is just behind Tesco now, where, you know, if you know Sheffield, where the old entrance used to be. And look, we noticed when we were walking past, there's the top of some arches here. Are these just part of the retaining wall at the back of the station?
There's 5.
5?
Yeah. 2 that you can see a shape, the underside of.
Because they're huge, aren't they? They look very, very hefty.
That's got a nice keystone, isn't it? That's just, yeah, that's solid.
For arches on a retaining wall, they look hefty. And that's to say that there wasn't more. It's just been, if you look where they created the entranceway into Tesco.
Equally spaced out.
Nice. Let's see if we can dig out any photographs that show the wall against this side of the station, just to confirm if, I mean, it's not a tunnel or a bridge, we know that.
So this is inside the goods yard boundary then?
Yeah.
So it will be just behind here?
This will be the retaining wall at the back of the goods yard, and it lines up with the alignment of this side going down into the corner. I personally walked past these many times over the years without even noticing, so it was a bit of a nice surprise on the day to notice something poking out that was part of the original station infrastructure. Looking back through old photos and the Britain from above aerial images, you can just about make out these larger arches forming part of the rear retaining wall of the goods yard. Even more remarkably, Google Street View captured the site just before it was redeveloped. Those images show not only the larger arches, but also a second row of smaller arches descending the ramp into the goods yard. And if you look carefully, you can even see the now bricked up portal of the Fiery Jack Tunnel before it disappeared behind that modern retaining wall. It's a wonderful reminder that even in a place that's been so heavily redeveloped, fragments of Sheffield's first railway station are still quietly hiding in plain sight. Today, almost nothing remains of Sheffield's first railway station. The platforms have gone, the station buildings have disappeared, and the goods yards that occupied this site for almost a century have long since been replaced. Today, thousands of people drive, shop and pass through here every week, often with no idea of where Sheffield's railway story first began. But that's what makes places like this so fascinating. Even when the buildings have vanished, the story hasn't. If you know where to look, Sheffield's first station's still here, hidden in the streets, the bridges and the landscape around us. Thanks to Calvin from Hidden Sheffield Walks. Visit his Facebook page and his Substack and find out more about his Hidden Sheffield walking tours. And thanks to all my channel members and supporters, and we'll see you on another video soon. Ta-ra!